Hey guys, come on downstairs, bringing another Career Mode Las Vegas episode to you today. It's job number 15, and we're going to be going from North Las Vegas to Beaver, Utah. Let's recap job number 14. We took the sheriff of Pahrump to Boulder, Utah, made a little over $10,000, ended with $140,330 in our balance. Our fleet up to this point is still just our 1980 Cessna 152 that we bought for $45,000. All right, it's December 30th, 2022, 8:45 a.m. Our work order for today is deliver a 50-pound package of parts to the Beaver Airport. Pretty simple, not overly creative, but if you notice the skies above, they look a little bit different than they have throughout this series up to this point. We have had nothing but clear skies and good weather, but not today. Out towards the east where we are headed, it looks quite overcast. And we're going to fill up with 70% fuel, which is, what is that, 18.2 gallons. And I weigh 226 as the pilot, and I don't know if I did, but I should have put like 50 pounds worth of parts in the front passenger side. I don't know. Oh no, I think I just, oh yeah, if I put weight in the passenger side, it puts a passenger in the seat. So I added the 50 pounds to myself. So we're not a super balanced airplane, but it is what it is. Alright, we'll go ahead and prime it. We've got the batteries and battery and alternator on. The fuel is rich, and let's fire it up. Okay, so that is the direction we're headed out there. Get some lights on, our nav lights and strobe light. Our beacon, I believe, was already on. And let's look at our route here. We're going to navigate off of the MMM VOR, which is up near Mesquite again. And it's a frequency of 114.3. Put that into our nav 1. And then after that, it looks like we're basically going to keep right around the same heading. And our next VOR will be the EHK VOR, just north of Cedar City. That is Enoch, near Enoch, Utah. 117.3 is the frequency for that. And in just a second, I will get the headings for those VORs off of the Navlog. Eventually in this series, I start flight planning with Navigraph and end up just not using the VFR map altogether. Also, for good measure, we're going to put in this NDB into our ADF. Its frequency is a 2.17. It's also right near Enoch, Utah. So we're kind of headed the same direction that we were in job number 14. This time it's a much shorter flight. We're heading to Beaver, Utah. It is runway is just about 5,000 feet, and no ILS, no GPS approaches. It is a VFR airport only, which could pose a problem because it doesn't look like VFR weather up ahead that way. And yes, before anybody brings it up here in the next little while, I should have filed an IFR flight plan. I didn't quite, at the time that I made this flight, didn't really think it through, I guess. We had 14 jobs of just great weather, and so I kind of got complacent and was just like, let's just fly this thing in this Cessna. Yeah. I know you would never fly. I mean, it's not that you would never do it. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to fly VFR through clouds and in VFR conditions, which we're going to do here. So that part of this episode is not very realistic.
Information Oscar 1600 Zulu. Wind 219er at 11. Visibility 10. Sky condition, few clouds at 4,500 feet, 13,600 feet scattered. Temperature 16. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.72.
So the sky condition, sorry, we'll get this out of the way.
For takeoff departure to the north.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree taxi to and hold short of runway 25 via taxiway Romeo Alpha, cross runway 12 right Alpha. Contact tower on 125.7 when ready.
Taxi to and hold short runway 25 using taxiway Romeo Alpha, cross runway 12 right Alpha Cessna Bravo Golf Tree.
Okay, so the sky conditions over Vegas aren't all that bad. Said few clouds at like 5,000, which is about 3,000 above ground level. We could fly around the Vegas Valley in VFR just fine. But where we're going, we really should have filed an IFR flight plan. I guess at the time that I made this flight, I just wasn't as knowledgeable about the whole system and the way I should do things. And it's a little while before I get... I mean, if I'm going to use the ATC, which I'm using, I might as well do it correctly to the best of my ability, and I kind of didn't with some of these flights into bad weather. But at a certain point in this series, that kind of hits me, and I realize that we need to do IFR flight plans, and so there's a certain point in the future where if we're going to do it right in the future. Okay, we don't do it right in this episode, and there's a few more episodes in our third work area, I think, where we don't do it right. But by the time we get to our fourth area, like I finally decided, if I'm going to do this, let's do it right. So when there's bad weather, when there's clouds, we're going to file IFR flight plans at that point. But there's going to be several episodes in the first 3 work areas where I didn't. And maybe was a little bit nonchalant with the sim, I guess you could say. I was just playing it as a game more than anything. But eventually we get a little bit more serious about it and start to do things more correct. Obviously the start of it was well intentioned, but I wasn't as knowledgeable. I should have been. Like I think I knew, but I didn't really think it through. I just wanted to get up in the clouds and try to use my instruments and play, and just use the ATC as little as I could, I guess. I don't know. All right, we're out here at runway 25. Gonna do our run up. So you can see from the start of episode or job number 1, started to learn a few things, gotten much more comfortable in this little Cessna, and I think maybe a little too comfortable. And The other thing about this episode and flying up into the clouds that I maybe took for granted was that I
North
know
Las Vegas
this
Tower,
area
Cessna
pretty good.
Bravo Golf Tree at runway 25 ready for departure to the north.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree, altimeter 29er, decimal 7 tree, wind 179er at 11. North departure approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 25.
Okay, so we've got a pretty
Cleared for
solid
takeoff, runway 25 Cessna Bravo Golf Tree.
we've got a pretty solid crosswind here on this takeoff. 11 knots, the 13, 14 mile an hour crosswind in this little Cessna. It's going to affect us. This might be the most difficult takeoff that we've had so far. Not might, it definitely will be the most difficult takeoff because the wind is going to be coming, let's see, what was it? It's going to be coming from our left, I believe. So the wind is going to be blowing from our left, from left to right, and it's pretty much a straight crosswind. So here we go. Let's see how we can fight this wind on takeoff. So it's wanting to push our tail to the right, which would push the nose to the left. Oh, and we get a stall warning on takeoff. That was a little bit sketchy. But we're up. And the wind is definitely affecting us. Especially our speed. So it was maybe a little bit from the left and a headwind.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree, continue for north departure.
North Las Vegas Tower, Cessna Bravo Golf Tree, continue for north departure.
Okay, so we're finally getting our airspeed up to around 60. 65 knots is our best rate of climb. And we are heading straight west, so we need to turn it around here and start heading to the northeast. So we're going to depart here to the north in just a second. We were cleared for our north departure. I kept it on the runway heading for a little while, just trying to gain some altitude and deal with the wind, because it was honestly throwing me around quite a bit. But now we're heading off to the north. Still haven't gained as much altitude as I would have liked at this point. But that whole takeoff was a little bit sketchy. The wind started to push our left wing up, and so we had to use some aileron input to try to force that wing back down and maybe rotated just a little bit too hard on takeoff. And got a little bit of a stall warning. Luckily it didn't last long. Okay, we're going to start turning to the west or to the east here. We are heading almost due north out of North Las Vegas. And looks like we need to go to the right just a little bit. To get on path to reach the VOR up by Mesquite. There's an adventure ahead of us here with these clouds. It's gonna be pretty wild. So buckle up, because things get a little crazy. So I definitely, after all of the flights with really perfect weather almost, got a little complacent and nonchalant in this Cessna 152. And another factor here is that I know the area pretty good, especially once we get up around St. George, Utah area. I'm pretty familiar with it. And
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
North Las Vegas Tower Cessna Bravo Golf Tree frequency change. Las Vegas approach Cessna Bravo Golf Tree is type Cessna 152 5 miles north of North Las Vegas, 4,800 feet. Request clearance to transition Bravo airspace.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree, Las Vegas approach. Squawk 5266.
got to get our flight following set up here. We really
Squawk
should be on
5266
IFR.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree radar. Contact 5 miles north of North Las Vegas, 5,100 feet. Clear through the Bravo airspace. Maintain on navigation.
Cleared through the Bravo airspace Cessna Bravo Golf Tree.
So we haven't flown through any clouds yet, so far we haven't violated any of the aviation statutes that we soon will violate. And we're starting to get up here in altitude. We are up near 7,000 feet at this point. We still haven't reached the clouds just yet. Move ourselves forward just a little bit. Looks like we're fairly online for the MMM VOR. Looking at our NAV1 instrument. Now, if I could have just done this flight under the clouds like this the entire way, would have been great. But the problem was the land was rising to meet the clouds the further north I got. So eventually we had to make our way into the clouds. Which, I've said it many times already, if you're flying VFR, is a big no-no. So definitely a huge mistake that you would never make in real life. But I was wanting the challenge, I guess. So I'm pretty familiar with the St. George, Utah area, Cedar City area. I've done a lot of flights in and out of the Cedar City airport from a series earlier on my channel. So I felt like I know that area pretty good. But I make a few mistakes up ahead, so stay tuned, because we'll go over them as I make them. So right now we're doing pretty good. We're still up near the clouds. We might not be right in the middle of them. There probably is some visibility down below us, but we're going to start getting into the clouds right here.
Approach on 120.45. Good day.
Got some blue sky up there, though. If we could climb, what are we at here? We're at 10,500 feet.
120.45 American 661.
Maybe I really should have tried to climb up to 15,000 feet. Probably would be good to know the ceiling on my aircraft, because I honestly can't tell you even right now after many jobs that I've done with the Cessna 152, I can't tell you what the ceiling is.
268 is at 13,100 feet, climbing flight level 260.
But I'm imagining something like 15,000, 13,000, 15,000, something like that, likely. Okay, so we've moved ahead just a little bit in our flight. Visibility has been quite bad. We have flown through some clouds. We've seen a few openings here and there. We're still headed, I believe we're still headed to the, 114.3 is the MMM VOR frequency that we're headed to. The other one was 117.3. So it looks like that needle is live on our NAV2 instrument. So if we really wanted to, we could just break off our flight and head straight to that one. But pretty sure I maintained it until we got to the MMM VOR. I know a lot of people just silence the ATC, so flying IFR and VFR, they just don't care on Flight Simulator. They'll just fly IFR without the ATC anyway, and I think that's kind of why I was just kind of nonchalant about it. Like, we'll fly IFR, whatever. We don't need the ATC. We're, a lot of people disable it anyway because they don't like it. All right, we're starting to get a little bit of, I don't know if that's rain or snow. And we're approaching the MMM VOR. That's why our needle is moving rapidly to the right. So we're not going to overreact. There we go. We just hit it. So we just reached the VOR over by Mesquite. And so now we should be turning left to track the EHK VOR. And it looks like we've done that because that NAV2 needle is centered. So we are heading towards Enoch, Utah. And we're starting to get some ice on the windows. So I probably should have done it much earlier. But we opened up the carburetor. Try to get some heat going. That's one of the issues with the Cessna 152 and why it's not super IFR worthy, or really IFR worthy at all, is the de-icing options are minimal.
Kilo Sierra Golf Uniform Automated Weather Observation 1700 Zulu. Wind 129er at 5. Visibility 10. Sky condition, ceiling 4,500 feet overcast. Temperature 8C dew point, 10C, altimeter 29er84.
Okay, so we're kind of getting up near St. George. I was checking the weather in the St. George area. It looks like the ceiling's around 4,500 feet there. The problem is we're not going to go necessarily right straight over the top of St. George. We're going to be going a little to the northwest of St. George. And if you know the St. George area, as we kind of break out of the clouds here near St. George, that mountain that you see in the lower right of the windshield, I believe that is the mountain that is, just north of St. George. So we finally get a view from outside our cockpit here. That mountain is just above St. George. I can't remember what that mountain's called, but I've actually flown over it several times in real life, flying into the old St. George Airport. That was up on the little plateau overlooking the older part of the city. So we are icing up pretty badly here. Our windows, windshield covered in ice. It's going to make it difficult to see, but at least we are out of the clouds. At least we are out of the clouds, and we have, you know, even though it's blurry, we're looking through ice. At least we can see the terrain ahead of us, and that bodes well for right now. Although up ahead, towards the Enoch VOR that we're headed to, it looks like another very large bank of clouds. So we're going to try to check the weather around Cedar City.
Kilo Charlie Delta Charlie, automated weather observation 1800 Zulu. Wind 183 at 6. Visibility 10 in heavy rain. Sky condition, few clouds at 1,600 feet, ceiling 4,500 feet overcast. Temperature 1C dew point, 10C, altimeter 2978.
So Cedar City's still a little ways away. It looks like we can check the, this is the weather in Beaver.
Wind 174 at 11. Visibility 10 in heavy rain.
So, it's
Uniform
still,
52 traffic Cessna Bravo Golf Tree, 64 miles southwest, 10,200 feet, inbound to land runway 13.
so Uniform 52 is the, U52 is the Beaver Airport. And it said visibility was 10, which is 10 statute miles. It did say heavy rain though. So we're going to let them know we're headed that way. Okay, so we're getting closer to Enoch. It looks like we're a little bit to the left of the line that would get us to Enoch. After we hit the Enoch VOR, we're going to track a radial away from it to get to the Beaver Airport, because there is no VOR or other navigational instrument or facility to get us to the Beaver Airport. It's a VFR airport. But I don't like the look of the cloud bank up there. That looks like it has kind of settled in the Cedar City Valley. But because I'm pretty familiar with the area, we're going to try it anyway. That was the when I started this series, I was like, we're going to make a job and a destination, and then give it a nice valiant effort to get there. And if we have to divert and end up landing somewhere else, so be it, as long as we made an effort to get the job complete. Whereas in real life, you'd probably no package of 50-pound parts is worth risking what we're about to do. Let's just put it that way. In real life, you would never do this. But since it's a game, we're having fun with it, we're going to make a valiant effort to try to get this job completed. And mostly because we want the money from it. We're trying to build up that balance in order to buy a second plane. Alright, we're about to lose. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little bit of visibility that we just had, because we are about to lose it. We still have a little bit of ice on the windows. It did start to melt and dissipate a little bit, but we're heading back into the clouds where that icing is going to probably come right back. And that's going to make things just even more difficult for us. Already not going to be able to see much in the clouds. It's going to be even worse when we get ice on our windows again. But we're going to make an honest effort here to try to get into the Beaver Airport. The other thing that's concerning is they also are experiencing 13, 14 mile per hour winds from the south. So when we get down to the Beaver Airport, we would have to circle around and get to a runway with a south heading. And the problem with that in the clouds is they're without air traffic control support or any like ILS charts, approach plates. There's mountains all over. Now at this point I also didn't have Navigraph or the ability to look at VFR charts and understand the where to find the altitude, the safe altitude grid, stuff that I know now, but when I did this flight I had no idea. So if I did this flight now, I would have first of all had IFR.
2 traffic Cessna Bravo Golf Tree 2 miles southwest 10,600 feet inbound to land runway 13.
I would have had IFR. I also would have known the safe altitudes for the areas we were in. Stuff I didn't know when I made this flight. So we are 32 miles away from the Beaver Airport. Looked like my...
Visibility 10 in heavy rain. Sky condition, ceiling 1,600 feet overcast.
So we do have some visibility below us. Hard to see from the cockpit though. This view is kind of cheating because we can actually see. And as we're starting to see some terrain here, maybe we'll be able to find this airport after all. So we head into the Beaver Valley here, north of Cedar City. It's another cheat view. Looks like it's broken up a little bit out that way, out towards the mountains around Cedar City. But we're headed back into the clouds again the closer we get to the Beaver Airport.
Uniform Flight 2 traffic Cessna Bravo Golf Tree 1 mile southwest 9,500 feet inbound to land runway 13.
Okay, so we're 11 miles southwest of Beaver. We're at 9,500 feet altitude. There are mountains all around us, as you can see. That's a little bit freaky right there. I don't have, yeah. So this is getting a little sketchy. This is getting a little scary here. So we've got mountains all over the place. We need to drop down into this valley. I believe the runway was somewhere at around 5,000 feet in altitude, or like 4,800 feet in altitude, something like that. And we're at 9,500 feet. So if we're going to get to the runway, we got to drop down below the mountains, obviously. But right now we're up above them. It's just we're heading into a pretty gray and low visibility area here. We are right on the line away from the, let's see, no, actually we've lost our VOR. We don't have either of our VORs set, so I don't know if we got too far away from the Enoch VOR that we lost the signal. But we, oh, it looks like I tried to set up something different. Like, I think at this point we are aborting Beaver. Okay, we got up there and didn't feel comfortable with all those mountains. And we are aborting the Beaver Airport landing, and we are trying to make our way back towards Cedar City. So here's where I got into some trouble. Or I got a little bit overconfident in my knowledge of the area, okay? So I was like, I know where Beaver is. I know where I was. I knew where I was on a map, right? So I knew what heading I needed to go to get to Cedar City. So I just turned to that heading and started flying that way. So what I didn't account for, though, in flying towards Cedar City at that heading, I didn't account for the wind that I didn't know at this altitude. The wind was blowing me hard to the east, and even though I was on the right heading to be heading towards Cedar City, the wind blew me to the east of Cedar City. And if you know what's east of Cedar City, it's these high mountain ranges. In fact, in our last job, in job number 14, we flew over these mountain ranges towards the Bryce Canyon VOR. So right here, I'm actually east of Cedar City, but I didn't know it. I had no idea at this point that I was east of Cedar City, and actually, I was feeling pretty lost at this point. And remember, I only put in 70% of fuel. So we didn't have a full tank of gas. We didn't have a full, 26 gallons that this holds. I think we had, 18.4 gallons or something like that. So we had 70% of our fuel. So we didn't make it to Beaver. We aborted that. We turned and are trying to head towards Cedar City. The wind has pushed us to the east of Cedar City. And now it looks like we are maybe closer to Kanab area.
Kilo Charlie Delta Charlie, automated weather observation.
And now we're checking in. We want to get to Cedar City at this point, okay?
Visibility, a quarter mile in heavy rain.
But visibility is a
Salt Lake Center
quarter
Cessna
of a
Bravo
mile.
Golf Tree is type Cessna 152 3 miles west of Uniform 55, 9,600 feet. Request flight following.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree Salt Lake Center. Squawk 5757.
Really should probably be
Squawk 5757 Cessna Bravo Golf Tree.
Cessna Bravo Golf Tree radar contact. 3 miles west of Uniform 55, 9,700 feet.
what is the Mayday emergency squawk number? 7500, something like that. That's what I should be squawking at this point. Whatever that number is, I think it's 7500. I could be wrong though. So after hearing the ATIS at the Cedar City Airport, the visibility was, oh my hell, there's a mountain right there. We're in trouble. After hearing the ATIS at Cedar City was a quarter of a mile, and we're going to try to avoid this mountain. Good heavens. I realized that Cedar City's not an option either, and now St. George is our best option. So we've got to get back to St. George, where there was, at least when we passed through there, the storm wasn't as bad back in St. George, right? But we've got mountains all around us. Our windows are iced up. The wind is really bad. The turbulence got really bad. So at this point you can see my plane. I'm fighting really hard to keep my wings level. Getting a lot of turbulence, a lot of wind shear. some downdrafts. Lots of trouble over these mountains right here. Getting into a lot of trouble. And it's hard to tell from the video, but like I was really fighting this plane to keep it level. So like I was white knuckling it on the yoke. Try to keep this level here. We're iced up. I feel like we're heading towards St. George, hopefully. The other problem that I have, like realistically, you'd be like, we'll put in the freaking VOR frequency for the St. George. Like there's a VOR in St. George, right? I think there is, and I could have done that. The problem was, in order for me to do that, I have to take my hand off the yoke, and every time I would take my hand off the yoke, my plane would just dive. Like it would, like the trim wasn't helping. Like it wouldn't necessarily dive, but it would like hit turbulence and just turn. So like one of the wings would dip every time I would take my hand off the yoke. So I felt like, man, you can't take your hand off the yoke. I can't set up the VOR with one hand because I don't have a mouse. So I need both hands to do it. We finally broke out of the clouds here, so that's good. Should be thinking about landing down in that valley maybe, and then getting on the phone for help. We're still trying to make our way to St. George somehow, but another issue we've got right now is our fuel. It's getting fairly low, and I don't know that we have enough to get back to St. George. I hope that we do, but I feel like we're heading in the general direction of St. George, even though I don't have any navigational instruments set up to help get me there. Was kind of honestly in panic mode and not doing so well in the cockpit. And yes, I could have pulled up the VFR map and cheated, but I didn't want to do that. The goal was not to use the VFR map. So I was trying to get there. So we honestly should have landed back in that valley where we had some visibility, because now we're just headed right back into this huge storm again. Our heading is still to the southwest towards St. George. But the other thing I'm still not accounting for is the wind is continuing to push us to the east. And so I never really adjusted for the wind. I just went in the direction, the heading that I thought St. George was at, just being familiar with the area. But the wind was pushing us. I didn't account for it. And another issue that we have right now is somehow our flaps are down and they're frozen. I don't know how I don't remember putting the flaps down, like extending the flaps. I don't believe I did that on purpose. I may have accidentally done it, but they are fully extended and they are frozen. So I cannot retract them. And that is messing with our airspeed, which is also going to in turn start messing with the attitude of our airplane. And right now we are losing elevation, and we are still over the mountains. And I know that this is a little bit cheating to use the spot plane view or the drone view or whatever you want to call it, because I can't see anything from the cockpit. So yeah, I cheated a little bit to see what I could see from this view. You can see our flaps are extended and I have no way to retract them. I've tried several times and they're frozen. We're starting to run out of fuel.
4012 contact Denver Center on 127.55. Good day.
And we're getting to the point where St. George is maybe too far away from us, fuel-wise, to get there. So I think at some point right here we start thinking Kanab is our best option.
4012.
We've been pushed to the east, so we are a mountain range over from the St. George Cedar City corridor. We've been pushed to the east and starting to look like Kanab is our best option if we can get there. And I know in just a minute here I check in with Kanab, and we're about 11 miles from Kanab. So if we can get to Kanab and get this airplane put down, we may not, and maybe just wait out this storm there and then finish flying to Beaver later. Like, we can finish flying to Beaver as long as we can get this plane down safely somewhere, whether it's on a runway, on a dirt road, in a meadow, doesn't matter. If we can get this plane down somewhere, we can wait out the storm. Okay? Kind of like we did in Job 13, where we ran out of fuel and landed in the California desert. We got our plane moved to the nearest airport. We got a tow or whatever. And so we were able to finish that job. If we can just get it down safely. If we crash the plane, we lose the job. That's just, there's no waiting out the storm if we crash. So we just got to find a way to get this down. We're back into the storm. It looks like we got some rain/snow coming at us. We are almost out of fuel. We're headed in the general direction of St. George, but realistically probably closer to Kanab. And it's looking nasty. Like, maybe this is the least visibility that we've had in this entire flight. So we're just like flying straight back into the middle of this storm. We're struggling with our airspeed. It's right around 65 knots. We're worrying about our altitude because there's mountains all over the place. So I don't want to lose too much altitude, but at the same time, we're trading speed for altitude.
Bravo traffic, Cessna Bravo Gulf Tree 15 miles northeast, 7,800 feet inbound to land runway 19er.
Okay guys, we're trying for Kanab. Okay, we're 15 miles away from Kanab. Let's see if some type of miracle can occur and we manage to see some runway lights as we head towards Kanab. It's going to take a miracle. It's going to take a miracle to get to Kanab and actually see a runway. But we're 15 miles east of Kanab. There's no way we're making it to St. George. So things are looking pretty bleak right now. Windows iced up. We're losing elevation. We're losing airspeed. Our fuel tanks are almost dry. I can't take my hand off the yoke to set up any type of VOR navigation, or we're just probably going to crash. The one thing that we don't have now that we had a little while ago is it looks like there's not as much turbulence.
Kilo November Bravo traffic, Cessna Bravo Gulf Tree 14 miles northeast,
So we're still
7,400 feet inbound to land runway 19er.
Last time we checked in, we were 15 miles away. Now we're 14 miles away. So either we're not flying right at the airport or we've got a headwind. Either way, it's not good. Can't see anything. Cannot see anything. Well, I can see the outline of some mountains here. Looks like there's a little road down there. Maybe we cut our losses and try to land on a road somewhere. Dirt road. The last thing I want to do is run out of gas 500 feet above ground level. The last thing I want to do is just slam into a mountain while we're in the clouds. It looks like we're fairly safe from that right here. Don't mind us, we are just flying around lost in this snowstorm. And to think that our first 14 jobs, the weather has been absolutely beautiful and perfect. And then we hit something like this. All right. Really struggling to keep our altitude at this point.
Kilo November Bravo.
Oh my
Cessna
heck.
Bravo Golf Tree 13 miles east, 6,700 feet inbound to land runway 19er.
We are only 1 mile closer to Kanab than we were like 5 minutes ago. Guys, we're not even getting close to Kanab. We got to start thinking about ditching it somewhere, I think. The next time we get some visibility or see land below us, we got to find a place to put it down. At this point, we're never making it to Kanab. We are not making it to Kanab. We do not have enough fuel to get to Kanab. I can see some ground down there. Still can't see it out of the cockpit though. Goodness gracious. Made so many critical mistakes on this flight. And to be honest, it was a flight we never should have made in this plane. We never should have flown it into the clouds in the first place. Well, there's some buildings down there. Maybe we can land it and go get some help. Not freeze to death. I think at this point I'm still dead set on trying to get to Kanab though. We're still we're at 60 knots, we're under 60 knots, and we're dropping altitude. We are dropping altitude and starting to see the ground below us. That's not a good feeling. Not a good feeling. Can't see much here. We could slam into the side of a mountain at any time. Still losing altitude, 500 feet per minute. Panic now, pull up on the stick. Yeah, I'm like white knuckling it right now, just expecting to smash into a mountain at any time. Anytime. Trying to avoid any little silhouette that looks like a mountain like that. Keep my head on a swivel. dropping altitude again, and we're going up and down and up and down, and now I'm pulling up too hard, panicking. Our airspeed is at 50. Now we're going straight down. We are maybe going to crash this thing. Our stall warning goes off. There's a mountain ridge right below us. If we move off to the left, at least we have some space between us and the ground, and at least we're seeing the ground. We're almost out of gas. We better try to land it right here somewhere. We better try to put it down while we have some control over where we put it down. We're not reaching an airport, so now our next option is to try to land it without crashing and take a landing off the runway and then wait for the storm to clear. All right, see how we do. We've had to put it down before and it worked, but we could see a lot better. There's lots of bushes here, and we touch down right now. Nope, not yet. Oh, we're coming into these bushes. We got to hit the brakes. Hit the brakes, try to avoid them, go left. And we clipped our wing. And we crashed. That is not how we wanted that one to end, guys. Our starting balance was $140,330. We earned zero. We earned nothing. We didn't get the job done. $400 of fuel cost, and we crashed. Cost us $5,000. And we're going to end this episode with $134,929.60. So not good. Not a good job. We did not leave it in Beaver. We didn't get it to Beaver. And we didn't make it anywhere safely. All right, that's it for this episode. It's Mama's Basement. It's Career Mode Las Vegas. Hopefully our next one we will do better.